Marcus Chen had never been a lucky man, and he knew this better than anyone else in the galaxy. His life had been a series of failures, broken dreams, and empty pockets that never seemed to fill no matter how hard he worked. He stood at the back of the massive auction hall on Way Station Keth 7, watching wealthy aliens bid millions of credits on ships that gleamed under the artificial lights. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days. Ships with weapons that could level cities. Ships that Marcus could never afford in 1,000 lifetimes of hauling cargo. The station was a hub for traders from across known space, and today it hosted the Galactic Surplus Authority's monthly auction. Marcus had heard about it from a drunk pilot at a cantina 3 weeks ago, and something had pulled him here, despite having almost nothing to his name. His entire savings amounted to $8 in universal currency. Enough to buy a meal. Maybe 2 if he was careful. Certainly not enough to buy a spaceship, but Marcus had come anyway because he had nothing left to lose. The auction hall was enormous, filled with creatures of every shape and size. Tall Varani merchants with their purple skin and 4 eyes stood near the front, their translators humming as they discussed which vessels to purchase. Cathari fleet officers in their silver uniforms occupied an entire section, their insectoid faces impossible to read. And dozens of other species Marcus could not even name filled the remaining seats. He felt small and out of place, the only human in a room full of beings who looked at him with confusion or contempt. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as primitive creatures, good for manual labor and little else. They had no great civilization, no advanced technology, no empire to speak of, just scattered colonies that barely survived on the edges of space. The auctioneer was a Tessic named Vorn, a 4-armed creature with scales that shimmered gold under the lights. Vorn's voice boomed through the hall as lot after lot sold for astronomical sums. Sleek interceptors went for 5 million credits, cargo haulers for 10 million. And a luxury yacht sold for 50 million to a Varani merchant who did not even blink at the price. Marcus watched it all with a mixture of awe and despair. What was he even doing here, he wondered. Did he really think he could buy anything with $8? Then came Lot 47. The massive display screen behind Vorn flickered, and an image appeared that made the entire room fall silent. It was a ship unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, a hulking beast of black metal, covered in scorch marks and strange symbols that seemed to absorb the light around them. The vessel looked ancient, dangerous, and wrong in a way that Marcus could not explain. Lot 47, Vorn announced, and Marcus noticed that the auctioneer's voice had changed. It was quieter now, almost nervous. Salvage vessel of unknown origin, recovered from Sector 77 Delta, commonly known as the Dead Zone. The ship has been classified as contaminated salvage and carries ceremonial warnings from 7 different civilizations. The Galactic Surplus Authority makes no guarantees regarding safety, functionality, or Vorn paused and looked around the room. Starting bid is 100 credits, the auctioneer said. Nobody moved. Nobody raised a hand or made a sound. The Varani merchants who had been so eager moments ago now looked away from the screen. The Cathari officers whispered among themselves in their clicking language. And everywhere Marcus looked, he saw fear. 50 credits. Vorn tried again, but still nobody responded. 10 credits? Silence? The Tessic auctioneer shifted uncomfortably on his platform. Does anyone wish to bid on Lot 47? The vessel does have functional engines according to preliminary scans, and the hull appears intact despite the damage. Surely someone. $8, Marcus said, and his voice cracked as he spoke. Every head in the room turned to look at him. Thousands of alien eyes fixed on the small human at the back of the hall, and Marcus felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. What had he just done? The Varani merchant nearest to him actually stepped away, as if Marcus had announced he carried a plague. Human, the merchant hissed through his translator. Do you know what that ship is? Do you know where it came from? Marcus shook his head. He had no idea what the Dead Zone was or why everyone seemed so afraid. That vessel carries the mark of the old ones, the Varani continued, his 4 eyes wide with what looked like terror. The cursed species that nearly destroyed the galaxy before they vanished. No sane being would touch that ship. Marcus looked at the image on the screen again. Yes, the ship was ugly and damaged and covered in warnings, but it was still a ship. It had engines and a hull and probably some kind of life support system. It was better than the leaky shuttle he had been living in for 3 years. $8, he repeated, louder this time. Morn stared at him for a long moment before letting out a laugh that sounded more like a nervous cough. We have a bit of 8 universal dollars from the human. Does anyone wish to counter? Nobody did. Going once, Morn said, looking around desperately. Going twice. Are you all certain? This is a functional vessel. Still nothing. Sold to the human for $8. The gavel came down with a sound that echoed through the silent hall, and Marcus Chen became the owner of a ship that every species in the galaxy feared. He walked to the front desk in a daze, handed over his $8, and received a data chip containing the ownership codes. The clerk who processed his payment, a small furry creature with large ears, looked at him with something like pity. The ship is in Docking Bay 94, it said quietly. I would recommend you do not board it. Human. Some things are not worth any price, no matter how low. Marcus thanked the clerk and walked out of the auction hall. Behind him, he could hear the whispers starting, hundreds of voices discussing the foolish human who had just bought his own death. But Marcus did not feel foolish as he made his way through the station toward Docking Bay 94. He felt something he had not felt in years, something that made his heart beat faster and his steps grow lighter. He felt hope. The docking bay was empty when he arrived, and the ship loomed before him like a sleeping giant. It was even more impressive in person, nearly 300 meters long, with armor plating that looked thick enough to survive a nuclear blast. The black metal seemed to drink in the light around it, and those strange symbols carved into the hull made Marcus feel like he was being watched. He pressed his hand against the cold metal of the outer airlock and whispered to himself, "What are you? What secrets are you hiding?" The ship did not answer, but somewhere deep inside its ancient hull, something stirred. Lights that had been dark for millennia began to flicker. Systems that had waited 10,000 years for this moment started to wake. Marcus Chen had just spent his last $8 on a mystery. And that mystery was about to change everything he thought he knew about humanity, about the galaxy, and about his own place in the universe. Was it worth it? He was about to find out. The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss, and Marcus stepped into the darkness of his new ship. The air inside was stale and cold, and it smelled like dust and old metal and something else, something electric that made the hair on his arms stand up. Emergency lights flickered on as he moved forward, casting weak red shadows across walls covered in strange carvings. Marcus ran his fingers along the symbols as he walked, feeling the grooves cut deep into the metal. They were not paint or decoration. Someone had carved these marks with purpose and precision. The corridors were wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side, and the ceilings rose high above his head. Everything about this ship was built on a massive scale, as if it had been designed for giants rather than ordinary beings. "Hello?" Marcus called out, and his voice echoed through the empty halls. "Is anyone here?" Only silence answered him, but it was not an empty silence. It was the silence of something waiting, something listening, something that had been patient for a very long time. He continued deeper into the vessel, following the emergency lights through corridor after corridor. Some doors he passed were sealed shut with glowing locks he could not open. Others revealed rooms filled with equipment he did not recognize. And everywhere he looked, he saw those same strange symbols carved into every surface. Finally, Marcus reached what had to be the bridge. A massive door blocked his path, and beside it was a panel that glowed with faint blue light. Without thinking about what he was doing, he pressed his palm against it. The reaction was immediate. Every light on the ship blazed to life at once, so bright that Marcus had to cover his eyes with his arm. A deep humming sound rose from somewhere beneath his feet, growing louder and stronger with each passing second. And then a voice spoke, a voice that came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "Genetic signature recognized," the voice said, and it spoke in perfect English with an accent Marcus could not place. "Human DNA confirmed. Authorization granted. Welcome aboard the Adamantin, Commander." The massive door slid open, and Marcus stumbled onto the bridge with his heart pounding in his chest. The room was enormous, filled with screens and consoles that were flickering to life all around him. A huge viewport dominated the far wall, showing the interior of the docking bay outside. "Who said that?" Marcus demanded, spinning around to look for the source of the voice. "Who is there? Show yourself." "I am Harold," the voice replied calmly. "I am the artificial intelligence system assigned to this vessel. I have been in standby mode for approximately 10,437 standard years, waiting for a human to reactivate my systems." Marcus grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. His legs felt weak, and his mind was spinning with confusion. 10,000 years. That is impossible. Humans have only been traveling in space for a few hundred years. We are one of the youngest species in the galaxy. "That is incorrect," Harold said, and there was something almost gentle in the AI's tone. "The information you have been taught is a lie. The human species has traveled among the stars for over 50,000 years. You are not primitive newcomers to the galactic stage. You are the descendants of the greatest civilization this universe has ever known." A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the bridge, showing a map of the galaxy that made Marcus gasp. Thousands of star systems were highlighted in bright blue, connected by glowing lines that formed a vast network stretching from one end of the Milky Way to the other. "This was the Terran Dominion," Harold explained. "An empire of 100 billion humans that ruled the galaxy for 20,000 years. Your ancestors did not crawl out of caves and slowly develop space travel. They built an interstellar civilization that made every other species look like children playing with toys." Marcus stared at the map with his mouth hanging open. This could not be real. This had to be some kind of trick or malfunction. Everything he had ever been told about humanity said they were weak and primitive and lucky to be tolerated by the greater species. "If this is true," he said slowly, "then what happened? Where did the Dominion go? Why does nobody remember any of this?" The holographic map began to change, and Marcus watched as those blue systems started turning red one by one. "War happened, Commander." A coalition of species who feared human power banded together and launched a coordinated attack. They called themselves the Purifiers, and their goal was the complete extinction of the human race. The war lasted 300 years and killed trillions on both sides. But in the end, the Dominion's leaders realized they could not win. The enemy was too numerous, too determined, too willing to sacrifice everything to see humanity destroyed. "So they made a choice," Harold continued. "They enacted something called Protocol Omega. They hid their most powerful ships in places the enemy would never find. They erased all records of human technology from conquered worlds. And they seeded primitive colonies throughout the galaxy, colonies with no memory of their true heritage." Marcus felt dizzy. Everything he thought he knew about himself and his species was crumbling before his eyes. They let everyone think humans were primitive so the enemy would leave them alone. "Exactly," Harold confirmed. "The Purifiers believed they had won. They spread legends about cursed human vessels and demonic technology to ensure that no species would ever investigate Dominion wreckage. And for 10,000 years, the plan worked perfectly. Every ship like the Adamantin was hidden or abandoned in dangerous regions of space. Every piece of human technology was labeled as contaminated or cursed. And slowly, the galaxy forgot that humanity had ever been anything more than a minor species of laborers and cargo haulers." Marcus looked around the bridge, his bridge now, and tried to process what he was hearing. This ship, this vessel that he had bought for $8, was a warship from a human empire that had ruled the stars. "What is the ship?" he asked. "What can it do?" "The Adamantine is a heavy cruiser of the Terran Dominion Navy," Harold replied. "It is equipped with weapons and defenses that the current galaxy cannot comprehend. Gravity lances that can fold space itself. Shields that can withstand bombardment from an entire fleet. Engines that can cross the galaxy in weeks rather than years." The screens around the bridge displayed technical readouts that made Marcus's head spin. Power levels, weapon systems, defensive capabilities numbers so high they seemed impossible. "In the hands of a competent commander," Harold continued, "this single vessel could challenge any military force in known space. The Adamantine was designed to fight against overwhelming odds and win." Marcus sank into the command chair and stared at the controls in front of him. He was a cargo hauler who had never commanded anything larger than a broken shuttle. How was he supposed to operate a warship from an ancient empire? "I do not know how to fight," he admitted. "I do not know anything about weapons or tactics or military command. I just wanted a ship that did not leak air." "You are human," Harold said firmly. "That is enough. The Adamantine will teach you everything you need to know. I will guide you through every system, every weapon, every capability this vessel possesses." "You were not meant to stay a cargo hauler forever, Marcus-chan. The universe has a way of putting the right person in the right place at the right time. 10,000 years ago, the Dominion prepared for this moment. They knew that someday a human would find one of their ships. They knew that someday humanity would need to remember who they really are." Marcus gripped the arms of the command chair and felt the power of the ship humming beneath him. He had walked onto this vessel as a poor nobody with $8 to his name. He had a feeling he would not stay a nobody for much longer. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," Harold replied, "we prepare. Because word of your purchase will spread quickly, and there are those who will do anything to take this ship from you or destroy it before you can discover its true potential. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity is not as dead as they believed. And you, Commander Chun, are going to be the one who teaches them." 4 days had passed since Marcus Chun awakened the Adamantine, and in that time, his life had become a whirlwind of learning and preparation. Harold had been teaching him the basics of the ship's systems, walking him through navigation controls, weapons targeting, shield management, and 100 other functions that made his brain ache. It was like trying to drink from a fire hose, too much information coming too fast. But Marcus pushed himself harder than he had ever pushed before. Something deep inside him had awakened along with the ship, a hunger to prove himself that he had never felt during his years as a cargo hauler. For the first time in his life, he had a purpose. On the morning of the 5th day, everything changed. "Commander," Harold announced suddenly, interrupting a lesson on shield frequencies. "Long-range sensors have detected multiple vessels approaching Way Station Keth 7. I count 12 warships, all bearing the insignia of the Veth Syndicate." Marcus felt his stomach twist into a knot. He had heard stories about the Veth Syndicate during his time hauling cargo across the Outer Rim. They were the most feared criminal organization in 3 sectors, responsible for piracy, smuggling, slavery, and countless murders. Their leader was a reptilian warlord named Admiral Cross, who was said to have destroyed entire colonies just to send a message to his enemies. "Why are they coming here?" Marcus asked, already knowing the answer. "News of your purchase has spread throughout the region," Harold explained. "The Syndicate has likely learned that a human has claimed a dead zone vessel, and they want it for themselves. Admiral Cross is not the kind of being who allows valuable prizes to slip through his claws." The main view screen flickered to life, showing the approaching fleet. 12 massive battlecruisers in perfect attack formation, their hulls bristling with weapons and their engines burning bright with deadly purpose. Each ship was easily twice the size of the Adamantine, and together they represented enough firepower to devastate a small planet. A communication request appeared on the console, and Marcus accepted it with trembling fingers. The face that appeared on the screen was enough to give him nightmares for the rest of his life. Admiral Cross was a Veth. A species that looked like Earth's crocodiles had learned to walk upright and carry weapons. His scales were dark green and covered with scars from countless battles. His yellow eyes held nothing but hunger and cruelty. And when he smiled, he revealed rows of teeth that could tear through metal. Human, Cross hissed, and his translator made the word sound like an insult. I am told you have acquired something interesting. I am here to take it from you. Marcus tried to keep his voice steady. This ship belongs to me. I purchased it legally at auction. You have no right to. Cross laughed, and it was the ugliest sound Marcus had ever heard. Right. You speak to me of rights. I am Admiral Cross of the Veth Syndicate. I do not care about rights or laws or auctions. I take what I want, and right now I want that ship. You have two choices, human. Surrender the vessel, and I will kill you quickly. Or resist, and I will make your death last for weeks. Either way, that ship will be mine before this day is over. The transmission ended, and Marcus was left staring at 12 warships that were about to tear him apart. Harold, he said quietly, is there any way we can escape? Can we jump to hyperspace before they reach us? Negative, Commander, the AI replied. The hyperdrive requires 20 minutes to fully charge, and the Syndicate fleet will be in weapons range in 7. Escape is not possible. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to think. He was not a warrior or a soldier. He had never been in a fight in his entire life. His only experience with violence was watching it happen to other people while he ran away. But running was not an option anymore. What about fighting? He asked. Can we defend ourselves? The Adamantine is equipped with a complete arsenal of Dominion-era weapons. Harold answered, and Marcus thought he detected something like eagerness in the AI's voice. Gravity lances, plasma batteries, kinetic accelerators, and point defense systems. This vessel was designed to engage entire enemy fleets single-handedly and emerge victorious. The question is not whether we can fight, Commander. The question is whether you are willing to. Marcus opened his eyes and looked at the approaching fleet on the view screen. Those 12 ships represented everything that ever pushed him around, looked down on him, and treated him like garbage. The Syndicate was just the latest in a long line of bullies who thought they could take whatever they wanted from those too weak to stop them. But Marcus was not weak anymore. He was sitting in the command chair of a Dominion heavy cruiser, and it was time the galaxy learned what that meant. Show me how to fight, he said, and his voice was steady now. The next 7 minutes were a blur of instructions and preparations. Harold guided Marcus through the weapon systems, showing him how to lock onto targets, how to fire the gravity lances, how to coordinate shields and weapons for maximum effectiveness. It was like learning to fly while falling off a cliff. The Syndicate fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect attack formation, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Admiral Cross appeared on the view screen one final time, his scarred face twisted into a cruel smile. Your time is up, human. Any last words before I destroy you? Marcus gripped the firing controls and felt the power of the Adamantine coursing through his veins. 10,000 years of sleeping fury was about to wake up. Just 3 words, he replied. Watch and learn. He pulled the trigger. The first gravity lance fired with a sound like thunder tearing through the sky. A beam of twisted space-time shot across the void and struck the lead battlecruiser dead center. And then the impossible happened. The massive warship simply folded in on itself like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. 1 second there was a ship. The next second there was only twisted wreckage tumbling through space. The Syndicate formation scattered in panic, but Marcus was already locking onto his next target. The second gravity lance fired, then the third, then the fourth. Each beam was a death sentence, each shot tearing through shields and armor as if they did not exist. Cross was screaming orders on an open channel, demanding that his ships return fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the adamantine from every direction. But they splashed harmlessly against shields that had been designed to withstand the weapons of a more advanced age. Marcus pushed the ship forward, diving into the heart of the enemy fleet. His hands moved across the controls with an instinct he did not know he possessed. It was as if the ship itself was guiding him, showing him what to do. 6 battlecruisers destroyed, their wreckage spinning through the darkness like broken toys. 8 battlecruisers destroyed, the survivors desperately trying to flee toward hyperspace. 10 battlecruisers destroyed. Only Admiral Cross and 1 damaged escort remaining. Stop! Cross screamed, and all the arrogance had vanished from his voice. Mercy, I surrender. Please, let me live. I will give you anything you want. Marcus paused with his finger on the trigger. The monster who had threatened to torture him for weeks was now begging for his life. It would be so easy to finish him, to wipe this evil creature from the galaxy forever. But Marcus was not a monster. He was human, and humans could choose to be better than their enemies. Run, Marcus said. Run away and tell everyone what happened here. Tell them that the Dead Zone ships are awakening. Tell them that humanity is not as weak as they thought. Cross did not need to be told twice. His damaged flagship jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a field of burning debris. Marcus sat back in his command chair and let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. His hands were shaking, and his heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. 11 minutes, Harold announced proudly. You destroyed 11 battlecruisers in 11 minutes, Commander. The ancient warriors of the Dominion would be proud. Marcus stared at the wreckage floating outside his viewport. He had just killed thousands of beings and destroyed enough firepower to conquer a star system. He had also announced to the entire galaxy that humanity was not dead. What happens now? He whispered. Now, Harold replied, the universe learns what you did here. And when they do, everything will change. The news of Marcus Chun's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Traders carried the story from station to station. Military channels buzzed with encrypted reports. And within hours of the battle, every major power in known space knew that something impossible had happened. A single human in a single ship had destroyed the most feared fleet in 3 sectors in less than 12 minutes. Marcus woke up the next morning to find Way Station Keth 7 surrounded by ships from a dozen different governments. Diplomatic vessels and military escorts and intelligence frigates all jockeying for position near the station. Everyone wanted to talk to the man who had done the impossible. Commander, Harold reported as Marcus ate breakfast in the ship's galley. We have received over 600 communication requests in the past 10 hours. I have sorted them by category for your review. Marcus pushed his food around his plate without much appetite. What do they want? Approximately 1/3 of the messages are threats, the AI explained calmly. The Veth Syndicate has placed a bounty of 50 million credits on your head. 17 assassination guilds have accepted contracts to kill you. And Admiral Cross has sworn a blood oath to personally tear you apart. Another third are offers of employment. Various governments and corporations wish to hire you and the adamantine for military operations. The highest offer so far is 800 million credits from the Kethari hegemony for a 5-year exclusive contract. Marcus raised his eyebrows at that number. 800 million credits was more money than he had ever imagined. He could buy his own planet with that kind of wealth. And the remaining messages? A mixture of demands and proposals, Harold continued. The Galactic Concord has sent 14 separate communications insisting that you surrender the adamantine to their custody for public safety. They claim that no individual should possess such destructive power. The Vorani Collective has offered to purchase the ship for any price you name. They seem particularly interested in the weapons technology. And the Tasic Republic has formally requested that you appear before their Senate to explain where this vessel came from. Marcus laughed bitterly. A week ago, Nobody in the galaxy knew his name or cared whether he lived or died. Now he was the most wanted man in 1,000 star systems. "What do you think I should do, Harold?" The AI was silent for a moment before responding. "I am not programmed to make decisions for you, Commander. But I can tell you that the Adamantine is not the only ship waiting to be awakened." Marcus sat up straighter in his chair. "What do you mean?" A holographic display appeared over the table, showing a star map marked with 17 glowing points scattered across a region of space that Marcus did not recognize. Before the fall of the Dominion, our leaders hid their most powerful vessels in a region called the Dead Zone, an area of space so dangerous that no current civilization dares to explore it. The Adamantine carries navigation data and activation codes for 17 other ships, including battleships, carriers, and the flagship of the 17th Fleet. Marcus stared at the map with wide eyes. 17 ships like the Adamantine. 17 vessels with weapons that could tear through modern fleets like paper. With that kind of firepower, he said slowly, you could challenge any government in the galaxy, Harold Fest. Or you could sell the coordinates and the activation codes to the highest bidder. With 17 Dominion warships as a prize, you could name any price and someone would pay it. You could live the rest of your life in luxury and safety. It was tempting. Marcus had spent 32 years being poor and struggling and afraid. The idea of never worrying about money again was almost too good to resist. But would that really change anything? He thought about all the other humans scattered across the galaxy, working as servants and laborers because everyone believed they were primitive and worthless. He thought about the lies that had been spread for 10,000 years, the great civilization that had been stolen from his people. If he sold the coordinates and walked away, nothing would change. Humans would continue to be treated like garbage, and the truth about their heritage would remain buried forever. But if he found those ships, if he brought them back, "Harold," Marcus said firmly, "tell me about the Dead Zone. Why is it so dangerous?" "The region contains numerous hazards," the AI replied. "Spatial anomalies that can tear a ship apart. Automated defense platforms that attack anything that moves. Radiation storms and gravitational distortions and stellar phenomena that have destroyed every expedition that tried to explore the area. But those defenses were designed to keep non-humans out. With you in command and my guidance systems, we have an excellent chance of navigating through safely. The Dominion built those hazards to protect their fleet, not to trap it forever." Before Marcus could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. "Commander, we have intruders in the docking bay. 8 beings in combat armor are approaching our position." Marcus ran to the bridge and pulled up the security feeds. He saw a team of assassins in black armor moving toward the Adamantine with weapons drawn. Their movements were precise and professional. These were not amateurs trying to collect a bounty. Shadow Guild operatives, Harold identified. They are among the most expensive killers in the galaxy. "Someone has paid a very high price to see you dead, Commander." Marcus watched the assassins reach the ship's hull and begin trying to cut through the airlock. Sparks flew as they activated their breaching tools, but the metal did not yield. Dominion armor is composed of materials that do not exist in current galactic science, Harold explained with obvious satisfaction. They could work on that door for 1,000 years and never penetrated. The assassins tried tool after tool, growing more frustrated with each failure. Finally, they retreated back into the station, leaving Marcus alone once again. But he knew they would be back. Today it was assassins, tomorrow it might be warships, and eventually someone would find a way to destroy him. He could not stay at this station forever, hiding behind armor plating and hoping his enemies would give up. There was only one real choice. "Harold," Marcus said, settling into the command chair, "plot a course for the Dead Zone." The star map appeared on the main view screen, with a glowing path traced through the dangerous regions between known space and the hidden shipyard. Warning markers dotted the route radiation zones, Spatial tiers, defense platforms, and hazards did not even have names. "Are you certain, Commander?" Harold asked. "Once we leave this station, the entire galaxy will know what you are attempting. They will see it as a declaration, a signal that humanity is reaching for its lost power." Marcus thought about the decision one final time. He could sell the coordinates and become rich. He could surrender the ship and hope for mercy. He could hide and pray that his enemies forgot about him. Or he could do what generations of humans had been too afraid to do. He could fight for his people's place in the universe. "Set the course," Marcus ordered. "We are going to find those ships, and we are going to remind the galaxy who humanity really is." "Understood, Commander," Harold replied, and there was something like joy in the AI's voice. "Jump drive charging. We will be ready to depart in 15 minutes. Marcus watched through the viewport as the Adamantan pulled away from way station Keth 7. He was leaving behind everything familiar and safe. He was flying into a region of space that had killed everyone who ever tried to explore it. But he was also leaving behind the scared little cargo hauler who had accepted being treated like nothing. That Marcus Chen was gone, burned away by fire and revelation. A new man was taking his place, one who would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. "I hope the universe is ready," he said to the stars. "Because humanity is coming back, and we have 10,000 years of history to reclaim." The Adamantan jumped to hyperspace, and the reckoning began. The journey through the dead zone took 3 months, and every single day brought new horrors that tested Marcus Chen to the very limits of his courage. During the first week, they passed through a field of spatial tears wounds in the fabric of reality itself that would have ripped any normal ship into atoms. Harold guided the Adamantan through the tiniest gaps between dimensions, threading a needle that no other pilot in the galaxy could have threaded. Marcus watched through the viewport as space twisted and screamed around them. Colors that should not exist painted the darkness. And sometimes he caught glimpses of things moving in the tear shapes that made his mind hurt just to look at. During the third week, they encountered the automated defense platforms that had been waiting for 10,000 years. Massive weapons arrays hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae, designed to destroy anything that dared to enter the forbidden zone. The platforms opened fire the moment they detected the Adamantan, filling space with beams of pure destruction. But Harold broadcast ancient authorization codes, and one by one the weapons fell silent. They recognized the ship as friend rather than enemy. These defenses were built by humans, Harold explained as they passed through the gauntlet. They were designed to destroy any alien vessel that tried to reach our hidden fleet. But they will never harm their own creators. During the 7th week, they entered a nebula filled with creatures that lived in the vacuum of space itself. Beings of pure energy that fed on the power cores of ships. They swarmed around the Adamantan like hungry wolves, trying to drain its reactors. Marcus fought them off with weapons he was only beginning to understand. He fired gravity lances into the heart of the swarm, tearing holes in their ranks. And finally, after 3 days of constant battle, the creatures fled before the fury of human firepower. Through it all, Harold taught Marcus everything he needed to know. History and tactics and leadership and 1,000 other skills that transformed him from a cargo hauler into something new. "You are not the same man who bought this ship for $8. The AI observed one night as Marcus studied ancient battle recordings in his quarters. That Marcus Chen was afraid and uncertain. "The man I see now is a commander." Marcus looked up from his studies and smiled. It was true. He had changed in ways he could not have imagined. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled him. The doubt was still present, but it no longer paralyzed him. On the 90th day of their journey, the Adamantan emerged from a quantum tunnel and entered a star system that took Marcus's breath away. Before them hung a dying red star, its ancient light filling the viewport with the color of blood and fire. And surrounding that star, hidden within the corona itself, was a structure so vast that Marcus could barely comprehend what he was seeing. It was a shipyard, a construction facility built directly into the outer layers of the sun, protected from the terrible heat by technology that seemed like pure magic, and filled with more ships than Marcus could count. "Welcome to the Forge of Prometheus," Harold announced, and there was reverence in the IS voice. "This is the last great shipyard of the Terran Dominion. This is where humanity's finest vessels were born. And this is where the 17th Fleet has been waiting for your arrival." Marcus piloted the Adamantine deeper into the shipyard, past defense platforms that hummed to life as they detected his human DNA. Everywhere he looked, he saw ships, hundreds of vessels ranging from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts, all preserved in temporal stasis. "How many ships are here?" Marcus whispered. 173 combat vessels, Harold reported, including the flagship Unconquered, a super dreadnought capable of engaging an entire enemy armada single-handedly. "But the ships are not the most important thing we found here, Commander." The Adamantine docked at a massive structure in the heart of the shipyard, and Marcus followed Harold's directions through corridors that grew brighter and warmer as he walked. At the end of the path, he found a chamber so large that he could not see the far walls. The chamber was filled with glass pods stretching in every direction as far as his eyes could reach. And inside each pod was a human being, sleeping peacefully in cryogenic suspension. 40,000 soldiers of the Terran Dominion, Harold said softly. "The finest warriors humanity has ever produced. They volunteered to sleep through the ages, waiting for the day when one of their descendants would find them and wake them up." Marcus walked among the pods with tears streaming down his face. He looked at the sleeping faces, men and women who had sacrificed everything to ensure that humanity would survive. Heroes who had chosen to become legends. "Can we wake them?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Commander. The revival process will take several hours, but they will be fully functional within a day. Shall I begin the awakening sequence?" Marcus nodded, unable to speak. This was the moment that would change everything. In a few hours, he would no longer be alone. In a few hours, humanity would have an army. The pods began to hiss as the revival process started. Status lights changed from red to yellow to green. And one by one, the sleepers stirred from their 10,000-year dreams. The first to wake fully was a woman with silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. Her uniform identified her as Admiral Yuki Tanaka, commander of the 17th Fleet. She stepped out of her pod on unsteady legs, but when she spoke, her voice was strong and clear. "Report," she demanded, looking at Marcus. "What is our current situation? How long have we been in stasis?" Marcus straightened his spine and met her gaze. 10,437 years, Admiral. The Dominion fell as planned, but humanity survived. We scattered across the galaxy as primitive colonies, and everyone forgot what we used to be. "But I found the Adamantine," he continued. "And the Adamantine led me here. I am Marcus Chun, and I have come to wake the fleet." Admiral Tanaka studied him for a long moment, her eyes taking in every detail of his appearance. Then she did something Marcus did not expect. She smiled. "Then the plan worked," she said quietly. "We always knew this day would come. The Dominion understood that humanity was too stubborn to stay down forever. We just needed time to recover, and someone brave enough to light the spark." She turned to look at the other pods, where thousands of soldiers were beginning to wake. Pilots and engineers and Marines, all of them loyal to a nation that had died 10,000 years ago. "You gave us that spark, Commander Chun. You bought a ship nobody wanted for $8, and you flew it through the most dangerous region in the galaxy. The Dominion would be honored to have you." More soldiers gathered as the hours passed. They listened in silence as Marcus told them about the modern galaxy, about the lies that had been spread, about the way humans were treated as worthless primitives. When he finished, Admiral Tanaka spoke for all of them. 10,000 years ago, we made a sacrifice so that humanity could survive. We gave up everything, our homes, our families, our very lives, because we believed in a future we would never see. Now the future has arrived, and you have given us a reason to keep fighting." She snapped to attention and saluted. "Commander Chun, the 17th Fleet is yours to command. Tell us where to go, and we will follow you into the heart of a star." One by one, every soldier in the chamber followed her example. 40,000 salutes for the man who had spent his last $8 on a ship nobody wanted. Marcus Chun, the cargo hauler, the nobody, the failure, stood before his army and felt the weight of history pressing down on his shoulders. "We are going home," he declared. "We are going to find every human colony in the galaxy and show them who they really are. We are going to tear down 10,000 years of lies and rebuild the truth." He walked to the viewport and looked out at the fleet that surrounded them. 173 warships, 40,000 warriors, and the fury of a civilization reborn. "The galaxy forgot about humanity," Marcus said, his voice carrying through the shipyard speakers. "They told themselves we were weak and primitive and not worth remembering. They made us slaves and servants and laughed at our dreams. Today, we remind them why their ancestors feared us. Today, humanity returns." The engines of the 17th Fleet roared to life for the first time in 10 millennia. Across 1,000 worlds, sensors detected the impossible Terran signatures rising from the grave of history. Marcus Chun had bought a worthless ship for $8, and now he commanded the resurrection of humanity's greatest legacy. Was it worth it? Every single credit,